Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the webinar. You can build your OpenStack and consume it too. I would like to start off with a bit of housekeeping. For all our guests, you will be muted during the session, so if you have any questions, please use the Q&A window. It's typically located to the right of your screen. We'll do our best to answer all of our questions throughout the session, as well as we'll save some time at the end for Q&A. So without further ado, I will introduce you our hosts. We have Umar Saeed, who is Director of Global Sales Engineering and Customer Support at Plum Grid, as well as Brian Thompson, Senior Director of Product Management at Rackspace. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Umar and Brian so they can further introduce themselves. Umar?
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Full name is Umar Saeed. I've been with Plum Grid for almost 3 years. And prior to that, I had a background in classic networking, what we used to call it as the legacy networking, working at Cisco for more than a decade, then at Forston and Dell. Been fortunate enough to be at Plum Grid since our first customer, so I have seen the entire journey, and hopefully we can share some of the experiences that I saw over the past 3 years, seeing different customers, how they have gone this OpenStack journey. So thank you for joining, Brian.
Great, thank you, Umar. So my name is Brian Thompson. I lead the product management team at Rackspace for our private cloud practice area. I've been with Rackspace about 3.5 years, and I've been involved with OpenStack specifically, and with the team building, deploying, and operating OpenStack-based private clouds, dating back to the Folsom release, if you will, and participating in the Grizzly Design Summit in Portland. That was as I started to really immerse myself in OpenStack. But come from a background, I worked for Amazon. I worked for a public cloud company called Tier 3, have been in the cloud and virtualization space for quite some time, and then have been kind of our point of contact, or as we've led our partnership with Plum Grid, as we've looked to extend our private cloud capabilities and extending SDN-specific capabilities. So thank you for joining and participating in our webinar this morning. As we kind of introduced the theme of the topic, you can build your own OpenStack private cloud and consume it too. A little bit of a play on words, like you can have your cake and eat it too. One of the things that we're going to kind of really talk through today is some of the complexities with deploying and operating an OpenStack-based private cloud, and where some of those challenges can be overcome between these types of solutions. So that first paradigm is really to adopt or not to adopt. As you're looking at evaluating OpenStack or looking to embrace this technology. Some of the key concepts that we work with many of our customers and partners and prospects as they're looking to look at OpenStack, embracing this technology, looking at cloud itself and as a technology strategy and making this part of their overall strategy. There's a couple key kind of baseline things to kind of set from an assumption perspective. First of all, OpenStack is not a product in the classical sense. It's not a shrink-wrapped piece of software. It's not a defined install, run, setup, boom, you're done. It's really a collection of a number of open source projects that are loosely coupled together and can be built to extend and provide and meet the use cases and workloads that you're trying to solve for. OpenStack itself, because of its sheer breadth, this coupling of, again, a number of different projects around compute and storage and networking and identity and all the services that come together, they're also all but infinitely configurable. If you look at the Nova service alone, Nova being the compute project within the OpenStack portfolio, there are over 700 uniquely configurable attributes that can be set, which define feature set, tuning, optimization, configuration. It becomes very complex on how you manage that. As you look at all of the different vendor plugins or third-party components that can be added to OpenStack, it can become massively complex. The analogy that we commonly use is it's like walking into this room full of Lego bricks. Each can be assembled in different ways depending on what you're actually trying to build, but it can be overwhelming for many. There's this concept of a spectrum, if you will, as that cloud market continues to evolve. between the paradigm of unmanaged and fully managed solutions. Unmanaged being that full do-it-yourself. I'm going to consume those upstream projects. I'm going to take those Lego blocks and build my solution in my own way, and I will take on supporting, owning, operating, patching, maintaining, upgrading, all the complexity that goes with that. But I now have that kind of full capability, if you will. And then there's the other end of that spectrum where maybe I'm getting into a more fully managed solution where I have those components, those complexities removed. I have somebody else actually providing that capability for me. But in many cases, that means I'm into a very confined or controlled set of capabilities. It's more of a one-size-fits-all solution, which may or may not kind of meet what I'm looking for as a solution or as a company. Again, building on that analogy, that unmanaged, I can make the car myself. I can get all of those pieces off the shelf, either commercially or via those upstream projects, or perhaps I just want the easy button, the OnStar experience. If I can have somebody else actually build that for me, and I now get to spend my time operating that experience. How do I remove those complexities of an OpenStack and have somebody else delivering me that finished product or platform upon which I can look to do my innovation?
So as we were working with the customers, right, and the customers who wanted to go on the journey of building their own cloud environment, right, be it OpenStack or something else, right? One of the things is the general mindset with cloud is that, you know, I want to have my infrastructure to be available at will, be able to scale as I want, right? Bring it up, tear it down in a matter of clicks, right? Maybe not even clicks, right? And in a matter of seconds, not in a matter of hours or days, right? And if you also think about, at the end of the day, the cloud is there, the infrastructure is there to support the workloads of the applications. Okay? So typically, if you work with the application team and how the journey that they were on, right, with the compute virtualization and everything, they also expect the network to be just there as and when the application needs it, right? But what we felt was that talking to the customers and engaging with them is they actually started seeing networking as a barrier, not an enabler for the cloud, right? Because in the traditional model of consuming networking, this automated way of having the network the way you want it, when you want it, and bring it up and down, right, was just not there, right? So again, if they were to use it, their classic model would be that, you know, they could get VMs or the infrastructure in a matter of seconds, but they would still have to use the traditional model of working with their own IT organization with opening, you know, multiple tickets and going through multiple approval chains to get the networking that they need. You know, could it be security, load balancing, layer 2, layer 3 connectivity, etc. Right? And the idea was that, you know, the customers want the networking to be in a cloud, right? The same way that they have it for compute, where instead of going through all these hoops, it should be there in a matter of seconds, you know, with zero tickets practically, with you know, not in a matter of minutes, not in a matter of days and hours. Okay. So that basically sort of, you know, led to the journey of networking in OpenStack. Now, those of you who are not familiar, Neutron is directly associated with networking in OpenStack, right? It first started with the fulsome release of OpenStack, and we are actually onto Metacat. It has come a long way, right? And before Neutron, the networking in OpenStack was very, very, very basic, like basic layer 2 and some very minimal functionality. But Neutron as a project in OpenStack, right, basically took off to provide the networking which a cloud tenant and a cloud operator would have dreamt of, you know, or would really want. Okay, it has now it has come a long way, right? It has basically the model of being consumed both from a cloud operator perspective, where certain activities or certain attributes can be enabled by the cloud operator, right? And then it also has the tenant consumption model, where a tenant can consume the networking services right, in a very automated manner as they wish and will. Okay. However, there are some challenges, right, and that is going to basically come with the design choices that were made for Neutron, right? It is basically there's a concept of a networking node, right? If you need anything more than layer 2, practically the traffic has to go through a centralized network node, right? And this architecture basically has resulted in certain implications on high availability, right? And also has some implications on the performance and the operation side. And the operation side, basically, when you want to go ahead and traverse the path of a packet when you're troubleshooting certain things, right? It is not that seamless. It's not that trivial to understand that where the bottleneck or the issue could be. Okay.
So as we kind of laid out both the sheer complexity and scale of OpenStack and the complexity of trying to assemble this, add to the complexity of networking itself and that expectation, as Umar referenced earlier, people just expect the network to work. And yet in this highly complex cloud model that we're working in, these can be huge challenges. And for many enterprises, these are barriers to adoption. This is where we have partnered together and focused very heavily on addressing these challenges and removing those barriers to adoption for customers of every size and complexity, of different varying use cases. From a Rackspace perspective, and as we partner with Plum Grid to really augment and build out this more complete solution, our focus is, again, thematically, how do we make OpenStack simple? How do we change that model to where you can consume OpenStack as opposed to trying to build and operate and manage all that complexity yourself? We're doing that by delivering OpenStack as a service, quote unquote, and literally backing it as a production-ready platform. We are providing, as a Rackspace managed service, an OpenStack private cloud where we can deliver a 4.9 availability SLA around that control plane, those core cloud APIs, the tools that you rely on to make sure that you can use the cloud and deploy your virtual services on top of that cloud with the reliability that you're expecting. Some of the key components to why we've built this solution together and why we're including that SDN capability for customers that are looking for these advanced use cases and more scalable, secure additional capabilities that they're requiring above and beyond the native networking capabilities of OpenStack is, again, through this joint solution, we become that single point of contact for all of your OpenStack operations. You now have a trusted partner with more OpenStack operational experience than any other provider on the planet, being that front end, running, operating, managing, caring for your OpenStack private clouds. We have a tight integration with our partner, both from the testing and release cycle as we come out with new releases of our prescribed deployment of OpenStack, consuming the new upstream bits of OpenStack from version to version, release to release with patches, and then with the tight coupling we have with our Plum Grid relationship for continuous testing and integration and certification, if you will. We have that tightly coupled partnership where we can deliver that service with that experience and the expectations around that high availability, production-ready infrastructure. Our combined experience between Rackspace and Plum Grid, specifically around OpenStack and the breadth and depth of networking and SDN knowledge and skill sets across the Plum Grid team, becomes a very tightly coupled solution for our customers as well, really tapping into that experience between our teams. And then, of course, that one support number, that commitment to excellence. Both of our entities, both of our organizations are solely committed to customer experience and successful customer outcomes, both really living that expectation.
Yes, Brian was talking about the business reason or the business value, right, that we bring to the customers through our partnership together. There are also several technical reasons, right, that has brought the companies together and bring these solutions to the market, right. The first one being is the automation aspect, right. The way we have, both companies have been partnering together for quite some time, right. Our technical teams work together to provide a fully tested and a fully automated solution, right. That when you are able to install in a matter of hours, not a matter of days or weeks, right? Once you have the physical infrastructure up, the way we have designed it is that in just a matter of few hours, you can have your private cloud with Rackspace and Plum Grid and up and running. Another thing is the notion is that you're bringing this, the solution to, generally speaking, an enterprise market, right? The enterprise customers who have a certain degree of expectation for their architecture, right? So what we bring is an enterprise-grade solution. What we mean by that is several things. Number one being the high availability. We account for HA in every aspect of our solution. It is part of our design choice, the reference architecture that we built together. It is thoroughly tested as part of our validation and integration process, right? And second thing is it is designed to scale as you need, right? It's a horizontal scalable model. As you need more infrastructure, you can just add more resources to it. And as your demand goes down, you can automatically shrink it down as well, right? The third aspect that I would mention, which is equally if not more important, is actually the operational readiness. Right? It is one thing to just being able to install it. It is another thing to be able to provide the solution which is fully tested and has the tools and bells and whistles for you to be able to successfully manage and operate it. Right? And when we say operation, it is not just installation and just basic monitoring and troubleshooting. We also focus a lot on validating, testing several use cases which are very commonly used across our customers. Okay. For enterprises, whether you are in a financial services or health services or retail business or whichever, right? Security and compliance is core to IT's requirement, right? So we build a solution which allows you to build a highly secure and an environment which can be fully compliant to whatever compliance that you need to meet with, right? So we'll build that solution to the market. Also important for us is to be able to, not leave you in a state of just testing and trying in the POCs for months and months and months, right? With our solution, you're able to take it to production very fast. The solutions are also designed with the upgrades in mind, right? You will have a need to upgrade the OpenStack environment or the SDN component for either, a caveat fix or a new feature. And we build your solution which you can upgrade seamlessly to whatever feature functionality that the solution offers.
Great. So we've kind of talked about this joint value proposition of a Rackspace managed private cloud and then bringing in the additional capabilities that the Plum Grid SDN capabilities can provide. What does that really look like? How do we actually bring that together? So from a Rackspace private cloud perspective, the solution and service that we're providing, again, is that prescribed deployment of OpenStack. There are a couple key tenets that go into our service offering and delivering OpenStack as a managed service, which is, again, it's a model shift. If you look at different ways that you can deploy and operate or discover OpenStack, if you will, there are a number of different models out there. Our focus has really been on delivering that OpenStack as a service, delivering it as a managed service, where we're taking on that burden of deploying and operating on that 7x24, 365 full managed experience, monitoring those environments, supporting capacity planning and operational growth, helping with performance tuning, and of course, the life cycle of that cloud, working through maintenance events for critical vulnerability patching and the upgrade process. OpenStack as a collection of projects have 2 major releases a year. That's a fairly rapid cadence for many organizations to try to embrace that level of change. We remove that complexity and manage that complexity for you through the back-end rigorous testing and certification work that we do, and then, of course, our operational capabilities to roll this out in a less invasive, more seamless way. We do provide these solutions in this managed service designed for production workloads. This is not just a POC or science experiment trying to embrace a new technology. With our experience, the way in which we deploy and operate OpenStack as a highly available control plane, we again are able to stand behind that 4.9's availability SLA and pay penalties should we not meet those. We're very confident in our ability to operate these clouds. Then we can provide it everywhere, quote unquote, to use the analogy. Many folks are expecting that this is only a service that we can provide in a Rackspace data center. Not so. We're able to bring that full operational experience, tooling, support, whether it's in our data center, a customer's data center, or a third-party data center, anywhere in the world. So we have those capabilities to deliver that wherever our customers need those private clouds deployed. Again, I touched on this earlier, and I'm not trying to brag, but if you look at the OpenStack landscape, Rackspace collectively has more operational experience than any other entity in the world by a massive factor. Between being the co-creators of OpenStack, rolling that out to a foundation, and then of course our continued contributions and thought leader position in this space for, again, since inception, but also the operational experience between our public cloud that's built on OpenStack, as well as now for almost 4 years, deploying and operating literally hundreds of private clouds for customers. The breadth and depth and the raw number of OpenStack engineers we have is massive in scale. We have a wealth of knowledge and expertise around this. That's why we're able to provide these services for our customers so quickly. And then delivering this as that single platform for growth and innovation. By taking those complexities of operating this technology out, we allow our customers to focus their technical resources on things that are valuable to their business. How am I focusing my innovation on things running on top of that platform, be they containerized applications, virtual applications, bare metal, leveraging Rackspace's portfolio between private and public resources? We're able to bring that to our customers and help them really leverage that full technology suite. If we talk a little bit more specifically about the Rackspace Private Cloud platform and what that really entails, this is a prescribed deployment of OpenStack, again, based on our experience of taking those Lego blocks and figuring out the right ones to assemble and how they're assembled in a way that we can provide an enterprise-ready platform and meet the scalability and performance needs of our customers. We don't deploy all of the OpenStack projects. Again, many of these projects are in different stages of their own maturity development. We focus on those that can be deployed as part of that highly available control plane, meet the performance and scalability requirements of our customers. Again, we have many customers running clouds into hundreds and hundreds of physical nodes. That becomes very important. We want to make sure that we can deploy these services in a way that can scale to meet those needs and not create single points of failure. We also focus on how can we make sure that these services are deployed in a highly available fashion from an uptime perspective. Can we upgrade them with minimal invasiveness to the data plane? These are all kind of key design criteria that go into what is that prescribed deployment of OpenStack. And then first and foremost, can we provide a fanatical support experience around that? Are these technologies that we have expertise available, immersed in, lots of hands-on expertise with, such that we can fully back those for our customers and provide that full, rich operational and support experience? This fits into that same theme as well with the Plum Grid components as well, as we look at a trusted partner and a level of investment in our training of our OpenStack engineer teams, as well as our partnership with Plum Grid, such that we can provide this in a seamless experience to our customers and make sure we're meeting their needs for advanced use cases and these scalable, secure releases or private cloud deployments, if you will.
Okay, so from Plum Grid or SDN perspective, this is what we bring for you, right? What Plum Grid is we are, for those of you who are not familiar, we are a software-only, overlay-based solution, right? Meaning we can run on top of any physical infrastructure, whether it's on compute or the network side, right? You have no reliance, no dependency on either of those, right? And what we offer is we offer a very rich set of network functions, which, through our solution, I will talk about it in the next slide, are fully distributed inside the Linux kernel, right? And through these networks, you can build a tenant topology, whatever your tenant desires, in the form of what we call as a Plum Grid virtual domain, right? And inside the virtual domain, think of it as your logical data center, right? A canvas on which you can just lay out the topology of your tenant, right? Which is fully distributed inside the kernel, right? We also offer a very rich set of operational tools and capabilities in the form of a product called Cloud Apex, and also various tools which come as part of our console and in our package, will let you, the monitor, troubleshoot, and do the capacity planning of your environment. And as I mentioned earlier, for the enterprise customers, the production customers, the security and compliance is a very, very core enterprise requirement, and that is something that we also provide inherently as part of our solution. Right? Our architecture is unlike classic Neutron architecture is a completely agentless. There is no concept of any centralized network nodes. All the network functions, the tenant topologies are fully distributed in the Linux kernels of the compute nodes, right? And there is no dependency on any centralized network node like entity, which can cause an issue with the HA or performance. Okay. A little bit more depth on the components of our solution, which bring it all together, right? There are essentially two aspects. One of them is on the Plum Grid platform side, and second thing is on the Plum Grid Cloud Apex, which is more of a visualization tool to manage and monitor your environment, right? On the platform side, what we have is a Plum Grid Director cluster, which is the management aspect of our platform. All the configuration through Neutron APIs are sent to the directors, which goes in and builds the topology and it distributes into the IOizer edge. And IOizer edge is actually our data plane, which is running on all the compute nodes inside the kernel. And the third component of our solution is the Plum Grid Gateway, called the IOizer Gateway, which is there to take the overlay traffic, which is the VXLAN, to native IP traffic, right? In scenarios where your workloads need to talk to client on the internet or non-virtualized assets, Gateway comes into the picture. Now, question is that how do we bring this to life into your environment, right? What we have done together is both Plum Grid and Rackspace have been working together for quite some time with several customers. And along this, our relationship, we have come up with a methodology, right, through which, we can actually share with you and bring your environment to full life, to life, right? It's, again, as I said before, it is not just about installing the OpenStack. It is not just about configuring it one time. It is basically having you fully ready to build and manage your OpenStack environment.
Yeah, as Umar mentioned, and it goes back to even as we started the theme of this isn't an off-the-shelf shrink-wrapped solution that you look to deploy. Private clouds can be very complex, and bringing to this full portfolio of offerings to help customers along that journey becomes critical to making sure that they can be successful. So it starts off with that upfront cloud design processes. As Rackspace and Plum Grid engineers can work with our customers to make sure that we understand use cases and workload profiling, to make sure that we're helping design a private cloud platform environment that will meet their performance and scale needs, as well as helping educate along the way, that we're helping them think about these cloud native models and how they're architecting to leverage this infrastructure and these capabilities. From a training perspective, leveraging the suite of training offered around the native OpenStack services as well, and the advanced networking capabilities of the Plum Grid ONS platform, we have that portfolio of training services available for our customers, again, taking them on that journey and helping them really embrace and take advantage of these technologies and make sure that that time to value as they start to really leverage or use their cloud, they can accelerate that. Once you're deployed and into that overall operational area, this is where that, again, model of consuming this as a managed service becomes critical. You have those capabilities and enablement services from Rackspace and Plum Grid coming together to help customers with everything from application modernization, right? How am I not just forklifting applications onto a cloud, but how am I helping optimize them for a cloud, or even helping with more cloud native application development. So I'm bringing in services to help around agile methodology consulting, or helping customers develop CI/CD types of processes to really leverage those cloud technologies and, again, really get the most value out of these platforms as they can. And then, of course, the ongoing support and operations, having that single phone number to call, that single point of contact to make sure that they're fully managing, operating, monitoring my cloud, taking me through the upgrade process, going from version to version, managing for security vulnerabilities, helping me proactively scale and do proactive capacity planning around this. These are all key services that help our customers be very successful in their journey to that cloud offering and taking advantage of these services.
Now, again, as Brian was mentioning, right, one of the first things that we do is when we work with you is we work with you during the design phase and the planning phase, right? And I was talking about various components, various solutions, and all of these. This is how it all comes together, right? One of the first things that we do is we build a reference physical design, very specific for your environment. It looks something like this, right? You have this concept of the controller nodes and the infrastructure nodes, where the Plum Grid controller components and the OpenStack controller components are mapped. Then you can have one-to-many compute nodes, right? You can have one-to-many storage nodes. Along with it, you also have Plum Grid gateway nodes. What we do is we work with you based on your requirements, based on your networking infrastructure. We build a similar reference architecture, which allows you to bring the entire OpenStack environment up and running in your case, right? Then on top of it, you can do is you can run the various use cases, right? Could be as simple as infrastructure as service or a specific application which runs on top of this design. Okay. So we're almost to the end. I mean, some of you may have this question that where do I go from there, or what do some of our other customers do? What we've seen it is, one of the first thing that you want to think about is what is the use case that you want to start this OpenStack journey with, right? And we see customers using OpenStack for a variety of use cases, right? Please don't assume that it is just there for basic infrastructure as a service. We have customers who are using this for building PaaS environment, running a Cloud Foundry on top of that. We have customers who have built private environment and running SaaS type of services on top of OpenStack. There's several retail and financial and healthcare customers who have built e-commerce like an environment on top of OpenStack, right? Meeting the very specific security compliance requirements with that. We even had customers who wanted to run OpenStack, Hadoop on an OpenStack, right? Then we also have customers who have built or offering very specialized communication and service, voice over IP type of services running on top of OpenStack. All of this is enabled with the Rackspace and Plum Grid SDN technology. Right? So it is not just about very basic minimum workloads. Customers are using it for various use cases, right? From as simple as infrastructure service to something as sophisticated as listed on this slide here, right? So again, I would leave you with the thoughts here is the think about, what is some of the first or eventually the use cases you want to bring up to this environment and how you can go from there.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Umar and Brian. So you had a couple of questions that rolled in. So for all of you out there listening, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A panel, and we'll do our best to address them live or after the event. But I'll go ahead and start off with the first question. So this looks like it could be either Brian or Umar. If I have a Rackspace and Plum Grid installed and later on need an upgrade Rackspace from one of the OpenStack release to another, do I need to reinstall Plum Grid?
I can take a swing at this one, Umar, and then if you want to add any commentary. This is actually a really good question, and part of this is in many ways, again, goes back to what are those barriers to adoption of OpenStack traditionally for a lot of organizations. So OpenStack, as I touched on early, as a upstream open source development community, has 2 major releases every year. These will, as a rapidly emerging project, in many ways These are, of course, introducing new capabilities and features that many organizations are looking to take advantage of, but also will contain a number of bugs and defect reduction as many projects continue to mature. So these are not patch releases, dot releases that you want to skip over. In many cases, these are truly things you want to embrace. However, there is complexity with upgrading these services, upgrading all of the OpenStack services, and so that becomes kind of a concern. If I have a tightly integrated building block of my platform being the networking layer, this could be a huge concern. This is one of the first areas that we partnered with Plum Grid on tackling. How do we make sure that we are, really certifying that effort and making sure that we have a crisp and tested and vetted understanding of how Plum Grid is deployed in a Rackspace private cloud environment? How are we operating, monitoring that? But also, how are we sticking through that through the upgrade process?
Do you want to add anything?
This chart as part of our maintenance plan. We understand the impacts to the data plane and control plane through that upgrade. So, reinstall Plum Grid, that's actually not the case. Our upgrade of all of these services including releases. We still remains full quality engineering process that go through testing with release, including the upgrade experience. So now you want to add to any of that, but.
Sure, and some of you may have, Brian's voice may have come across choppy for some of you, so I'll just comment in summary. It's very simple, right? There is no need or a reason for you to reinstall or uninstall Plum Grid when you upgrade Rackspace OpenStack and vice versa, right? And that is one of the things is, as I was talking earlier, that we have designed a solution with a production enterprise customer in mind, right? And upgrades are a very, very core requirement and a core need for customers who want to adopt OpenStack on a long-term basis, right? So to summarize, absolutely not. You can upgrade Rackspace OpenStack, you can upgrade Plum Grid, vice versa. We have to plan around it, but there is no reason to uninstall or do anything very disruptive to your environment.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have questions rolling in. It looks like they are asking us during Q&A, can you talk about the scale and where Plum Grid starts to have issues if there's a current amount of VMs on the network that starts to have performance issues, and how do you deal with that? Adding management nodes, creating smaller networks, etc.
Excellent question about the scale, right? So to give you very specifically, right, there is again, we test this, we have customers running in productions. A Plum Grid or the SDN is not the first bottleneck that comes in, right? We have generally proven to scale much more than what traditional OpenStack can scale, both in terms of workloads or the complexity of your infrastructure, right? Now, we talk about, where does Plum Grid start to have issues? I will tell you there are no critical or any bottlenecks. But just like every other solution, you want to plan around, some of your upper limits and boundaries, right? When you designing it, there are 3 or 4 aspects that you want to think about. One thing is the number of nodes, the physical compute nodes that you will have for your OpenStack environment, and how do you want to design the scale and an HA around it. Second aspect is the workloads density. Right, the number of VMs on a per compute node basis and across your cloud environment. And third thing is the dynamic nature or the complexity of the tenant topologies, right? The network functions. Now, across all these 3 dimensions, we scale extremely well, right? And if you actually contact us offline, we'll be happy to share with you our tested and validated numbers, and also share some of the experiences with how the customers are running in the environment. Okay. Again, from our aspect, the architecture is an agentless architecture, right? So there is no need for us to add more management nodes or anything like that to increase the scale. And our current architecture is scaled, to several thousand workloads and hundreds of tenants and nodes out there. Okay.
Okay, great. So we have another question. Can you elaborate on what SDN capabilities Plum Grid adds over VXLAN VLAN and VXLAN in Neutron.
Okay, good question. The common question customers ask, right? So let me first maybe comment on the underlying technology, then I'll talk about the specifics, right? With Plum Grid technology, as I was commenting earlier, what we use is a technology called IOVisor. This is a distributed data plane, which is now being open source and upstreamed in core Linux, right? It's a distributed, highly programmable data plane that resides inside the Linux kernel of your compute nodes. What this allows you to do is to run layer 2 to layer 4 functions, layer 2, layer 4 network functions inside the Linux kernel, right? So unlike stock Neutron, where there's a network nodes or a lot of functions are either running on a centralized network node or in the user space, we run these network functions distributed inside the Linux kernel, right? Now with that technology in your environment, we're able to bring many network functions, right, and fully distributed inside the Linux kernel, number one. You're also able to build a multi-tenant topology. The whole topology of the tenant is running inside your Linux kernel, right? Additionally, we are also able to support use cases which today the Neutron may not be there yet or may not even planning to do it. So depending on use case, our platform is able to do much more network capability, much more network functions, right, that are not there in stock Neutron or what you call as this simple VLAN or VXLAN, right? Microsegmentation is a very, very powerful use case. Some people look at microsegmentation just as a security groups, right? But it's much more than that. Your environment may have very specific security needs which are not possible with the stock Neutron. With the Plum Grid solution, you can do much, much more in that area.
Okay, so we have another question about how long does the process take to go from customer specs to deployment?
How long? Okay. So if I were to share on an actual experiences, it typically takes about 2 weeks of planning, right? And 2 weeks of planning is understanding your environment, some of your use case, documenting your reference design, and also coming up with an execution plan. Then after that, it's a matter of less than a week, right? Where we can bring up the environment. That week also includes you provisioning and bringing up the physical infrastructure, which takes, frankly, probably 70 to 80% of the time versus the actual installation. And once that is done, then there's about a week we spend with you to test the very specific use cases, right? We come up with a formal test plan and we execute on it with you. And during that process, we also do very formal training for your team, right? So you're fully, not only you have an environment up and running, but you're also knowledgeable on how to run it, operate it, right? And how to engage with us from a support process perspective. If you ask me, soup to nuts, think about a 4-week process, including planning, installation and testing, and then, the ongoing management of it.
Okay. So looks like that was all the questions that came in during our session. If you have any questions or you think of anything after, feel free. You can always reply to the email that had the confirmation, and we'll get you connected with the appropriate people. We want to thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your time. This session has been recorded, and we will share it out after. So if you want to watch it again or share with your friends, we really appreciate you taking the time. So thanks again, and thank you to Brian and Umar for this awesome session.
Thank you.
Thank you.